Applied AI Industry Day. What is our event purpose? It's to showcase real world use cases of AI products to improve the lives of the American people. To that end, we have 3 desired outcomes for today's event. The first is to showcase our 15 amazing vendors within 5 market segments. And we'll get in more to the selection process of how these 15 vendors were chosen for today's industry day. Secondly, it's to connect promising AI technologies with AI program offices within federal government. And then thirdly, to enable increased AI maturity within agencies through industry information sharing happening today. And so we have a pretty jam-packed day, but before getting into that we have a pretty jam-packed day. And so I'm just going to give a quick overview of what's to come in the next 3 hours so that everyone knows what to expect. So right now we're in our welcome portion, going over the Applied AI Industry Day. We have an amazing keynote speaker, Lynne Parker, Director of the National AI Office, coming to speak with us from the White House. We have 5 segments for each of the industry presentations happening today. The first is health and wellness, followed by public safety. We're going to have a quick 10-minute break in between. Thirdly, we're going to have a portion on enablement and platforms, then infrastructure, and finally closing out, last but not least, with space and global data. And so then after each of these lightning talks, we're finally going to go into next steps of what to expect after Industry Day, and a little bit of a conclusion and kudos and thank yous for everyone who helped make this day a reality. So then that's actually a great segue into our next bit. I am delighted to introduce to everyone Ron Williams. He's the lead of the Applied AI Challenge. And so he's going to touch on how it is we got to where we are today and a little bit of the history of our first AI challenge.
Thanks for getting us kicked off, Sabrina. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be joined today by the AI community of practice, our finalists of the Applied AI Challenge, and attendees across the federal government who are interested in learning more about AI. We created the Applied AI Challenge to help federal agencies deliver their mission with these next generation technologies. We truly believe that American startups, industry, and academia can help us bridge the AI capabilities gap in an equitable, diverse, and safe manner. We kicked off the public initiative with a launch of our prize program on challenge.gov. We've received one of the highest response rates for a federal AI challenge. 122 contestants submitted to our challenge. We evaluated each submission on 4 key criteria: clarity of the submission and how well it described the technology, alignment with our federal agency mission needs, the impact or the potential impact of the proposed technology, and the feasibility of the technology. Is it ready to be applied today? And through this competitive process, we've selected 15 finalists who will share their products with our community. No pressure to our panelists, but we'll be using their lightning talks to award $50,000 in prizes to the winners of the challenge. Throughout the event, please think about how these technologies could help your agency and office, or even how we can work across agencies to apply these technologies. In that spirit, I'd like to welcome our guest speaker. We're joined by Dr. Lynne Parker to kick off our Applied AI Industry Day. She has championed the AI community of practice and the Applied AI Challenge. Lynne is the director of the National Artificial Intelligence Initiative Office, Deputy Chief Technology Officer of the United States, and Assistant Director of the Artificial Intelligence at the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. Good afternoon, Lynne. We're excited to hear more about the state of AI in the federal government.
Thank you, Ron, and good afternoon, everyone. Very much appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today. Let me just give you some background and perspectives on our thinking about trustworthy AI in particular and the use of AI in the federal government. Hopefully, many of you are aware that in January of last year, the National AI Initiative Act became law, and that launched the National AI Initiative. This initiative has three main goals. The first is to ensure that the United States leads the world in AI research and development. The third goal is to prepare the present and future workforce for the integration of AI systems across all sectors of the economy and society. But of particular relevance for today's discussions is the second goal, which is for the United States to lead the world in the development and use of trustworthy AI systems in the public and private sectors. This is an important goal. Now note the emphasis on development and use. We need to leverage AI technologies to the benefit of the American people. This goal also highlights that this use is important for both the public and private sectors. Of course, today's focus is on improving how the federal agencies make use of AI to help them do their jobs easier and more efficiently, and to better serve the public in its daily operations. So certainly, federal agencies have recognized the power of AI to help in many ways, including improving their operations, processes, and procedures, meeting strategic goals, reducing costs, enhancing oversight of the use of taxpayer funds, increasing efficiency and mission effectiveness, improving the quality of services, improving safety, training workforces, and supporting decision-making by the federal workforce, amongst many other potential uses. Now, agencies have not only recognized that AI can help in many ways, but they're also already leveraging AI across a number of use cases. And these use cases include applying AI to accelerate regulatory reform, reviewing federal solicitations for regulatory compliance, combating waste, fraud, and abuse committed against taxpayers, identifying information security threats and assessing trends in illicit activities, enhancing the security and interoperability of federal government information systems, facilitating the review of large data sets, streamlining processes for grant applications, modeling weather patterns, facilitating predictive maintenance, and many other kinds of use cases. So, given the broad applicability of AI, nearly every agency and those served by those agencies can benefit from the appropriate use of AI. So, going back to that second goal then of the National AI Initiative, note also the emphasis on trustworthy AI systems. That is, the goal is for the United States to lead the world in the development and use of trustworthy AI systems in the public and private sectors. The ongoing adoption and acceptance of AI will depend significantly on public trust. Therefore, the overarching directive to agencies is to design, develop, acquire, and use AI in a manner that fosters public trust and confidence while protecting privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties. This is important for you as participants in the Applied AI Challenge to keep in mind as you envision and develop your use of AI tools for the federal agencies. A key question, of course, is how do we know whether an AI application is also trustworthy? There have been a number of efforts around the world, both in the public and private sectors, to clarify what is meant by trustworthy AI. Internationally, the nations belonging to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, which includes the United States, signed on to what is called the OECD recommendation on AI back in May of 2019. This recommendation formalizes principles for the innovative and trustworthy development and application of AI and includes concepts such as inclusive growth, sustainable development and well-being, human-centered values and fairness, transparency and explainability, robustness, security and safety, and accountability. Now, on the domestic front, federal agencies are governed by the December 2020 Executive Order 13960 called Promoting the Use of Trustworthy AI in the Federal Government. This executive order establishes principles for the use of AI in the federal government to ensure that federal use of AI is consistent with our nation's values and is beneficial to the public. These are principles that are all non-defense and non-national security uses of AI in the federal government are expected to abide by, whether the use case of AI is existing or new, whether it's a standalone AI system or AI embedded within other systems or applications, or whether it's AI developed by the agency or by third parties on behalf of agencies for the fulfillment of specific agency missions. So what are these principles? In brief, they're as follows. When designing, developing, acquiring, and using AI in the federal government, agencies shall adhere and ensure that their approach is lawful and respectful of our nation's values, purposeful and performance-driven, accurate, reliable, and effective, safe, secure, and resilient, understandable, responsible and traceable, regularly monitored, transparent, and accountable. Note that while these principles are applicable to non-defense and non-national security applications in particular, the Department of Defense and the intelligence community also have their own sets of guidelines and principles for the use of AI within defense and national security applications. DoD, for example, released their ethical principles for AI in February of 2020, and that was followed just recently with their release of the DoD Responsible AI Strategy and Implementation Pathway, which provides more guidance on operationalizing the DoD AI ethical principles. The intelligence community released their principles of AI ethics for the intelligence community and their AI ethics framework for the IC in July of 2020. So collectively, the vast majority of AI use cases across the federal government are now governed by fundamental principles for trustworthiness. Now, a valid question at this point is, how do we ensure that all of these principles are upheld? At present, there's not formal standardized guidance on how to ensure that those principles are upheld across all of the various use cases across the federal government. Executive Order 13960, as well as the AI and Government Act of 2020, call on OMB to issue such guidance. However, that's not present just now. But there are many efforts in both the public and private sectors to provide guidance on developing trustworthy AI. For example, GSA's Center of Excellence has released a guide to AI ethics that demonstrates an approach to constructing AI applications with ethical considerations in mind. That's available online. The Government Accountability Office, or GAO, created in 2021 an AI accountability framework for federal agencies and other entities, which is also available online. This framework discusses key accountability practices to help federal agencies and others use AI responsibly. The National Security Commission on AI also released a report on key considerations for the responsible development and fielding of AI, which provides a foundation for incorporating recommended practices for AI development and fielding. This is also available online. There are also many other guides and tools that have been developed and proposed by the private sector. This audience is probably familiar with many of those efforts, and I'm not going to call out any other particular approaches that are out there. But I do want all of you who are participating in this challenge, I want to encourage you as you develop and creatively apply AI tools across a variety of use cases of relevance to the federal agencies, that you seek out those guides and take steps to ensure that the work that you do in the development of AI tools is consistent with these overarching principles for trustworthy AI. So let me conclude by quoting again from that executive order. And quote, "It's the policy of the United States to promote the innovation and use of AI, where appropriate, to improve government operations and services in a manner that fosters public trust, builds confidence in AI, protects our nation's values, and remains consistent with all applicable laws, including those related to privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties," end quote. So your efforts through the Applied AI Challenge are helping the federal agencies to do just that, to make innovative use of AI to improve government operations and services. This is important in all of the themes that we'll be hearing about today, themes on the topics of space and global data, health and wellness, infrastructure, public safety, and enablement and platforms. As you further develop your ideas and approaches in all of these thematic areas, please also be sure that you're developing these tools in a manner that fosters public trust, builds confidence in AI, and protects our nation's values. Thank you all for your contributions to the Applied AI Challenge, and I look forward to seeing great and impactful results through your efforts. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for your brilliant keynote. I always find myself being inspired and invigorated about the potential for artificial intelligence across all federal agencies to better help them serve their missions for the public, and greatly appreciate the emphasis on ethics and trustworthy, responsible deployment of these AI technologies, something that can't be overemphasized.